Happy Mother's Day, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And tonight we're covering the mother of all horror franchises, if you will. Dragon, for the past few Mother's Days, we've done our retrospectives on Bates Motel. We've done like the top 10 Norma moments, top 10 Bates Motel episodes. We've done the normies, if you will. I think it's time to get a little bit outside of Bates Motel, my friend. I think it's time to look deeper into the Psycho mythos, and for that, we have found an excellent fan film by the name of Mother, a Psycho fan film. Dragon, would you like to shine some information about this thing?
Well, yes, I would. Yes. Okay, so this was directed and brought to us. Pretty much, this guy's a one-man show in terms of the kind of the directing, the writing, kind of like very much kind of an elbow grease sort of filmmaker. Chris R. Notarelli. Notarelli. Yeah, I keep wanting to say Notarelli, but it's Notarelli. I think it's pretty sure that's how I say it. Anyway, point is, Mr. Notarelli here. He runs Blinky 500. This guy's been in business for a while, and this guy is kind of the go-to fan film making machine. This guy, I mean, not only is he, I call him like the master of the fan film, but he's also like he's easy. I don't want to just like box him into the fan filmmaker corner, man. This guy's a filmmaker, period. Why Hollywood is kind of sometimes glazed over him, I have no idea.
Well, I mean, it seems like this is, this is his niche. I mean, not to say that he wouldn't fit well into Hollywood, but just judging by some of the other works he's done, I haven't really dug deep into his back catalog yet, but it seems to me like this guy, what I really respect about his work is he really seems to search high and wide for subject matter to cover. For example, Dragon, I'm looking at the up next on YouTube for this video, and Zatanna is up there, and that's a relatively obscure Batman the Animated Series pool. You know what I mean? Like, this guy isn't afraid to just kind of go into the deep pools for some of this stuff, and I really respect that. And what I love about this one in particular is how it feels so much like the original Psycho. There's no Bates Motel in there at all. It feels so informed. It feels more like a sequel to Psycho than the actual sequels to Psycho do because of the black and white and the narration and everything. Anyway, sorry, Dragon.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, also, Zatanna had been around before the animated series, but I hear your point. We don't see a lot of Zatanna out there.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of Zatanna. Yeah.
That's the thing. So, I mean...
not an A-grade villain by any means.
Hero,
or an A-grade story. Yeah, right. Sorry, I forgot you. No, yeah, right.
Yeah. Point being, yes, that's the thing. That really does all sorts of fan films. He used to have even more, but sometimes the copyright vultures go swirling. Let me put it this way. Not really. He's I think the finest thing I've ever seen him done, the thing that impressed me most, that you can't find on YouTube, you can find like Vimeo or something. It's like you can find it, it's just like not as readily available. It's like on Vimeo or basically wherever he keeps kind of the vast catalog of the stuff that's like basically the Marvel fan films. A lot of the Marvel fan films are kind of kept elsewhere. It's not so much like a Disney thing. It's a little bit more. Some of the ones aired on the Fox side, like the Deadpool fan. He did a Deadpool web series of 3 episodes. He was going to do more, but I imagine, I forget something went out of hand with it. I don't know if it was a continued copyright thing or what, but he only did 3 episodes of this Deadpool web series. And Tiki, I swear to you, if we never got the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie, this would have been the closest we ever got it, man. This would have been like the best representation of Deadpool in live action ever. It was some of the finest Deadpool stuff you've ever seen. Just all the stuff in the comics is very well realized, and that's Notarelli's stamp. He's all about working with what he has and just doing the absolute best with it. Because that's the one thing that keeps him down. People have always suggested, like, why don't you do a fan film of this and that and that? I've been one of them, don't get me wrong. And, of course, the same response, and I can't fault him for it. This guy's like Scorsese with an edge, one could argue. He'll give you the honest truth, man. He'll give you, like, the brass tacks of it all, saying, well, unless people give me money for this, unless people, like, fund me the money, I will do anything anyone asks of me in terms of the fan film idea, but they're going to have to fund me on that one. Basically, when the good idea comes around, it kind of grabs him when the stars align, when things are kind of like when the time is right, he'll work his magic and he'll blow us all away. They're a freakazoid fan film, amazing. Again, like that's what I'm talking about. The guy's got all sorts of all sorts of stuff up his sleeve, especially the reason I say Hollywood should look into him, because the guy is a masterwork, and this kind of ties back into things here. Master of the slasher. That's the thing. This guy, I believe the main thing, and they're really kind of made his brand off of, was the Nightmare on Elm Street fan series that he did. Well, not a series, basically a series of individual fan films with kind of his kind of main guy playing Freddy Krueger. It's so good, people have said, instead of doing that remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, why don't we get this guy to do it? You know, why don't we get this guy who looks enough like Robert Englund, and we get this guy knows what he's doing kind of filmmaking wise with the brands, and he's done this with like the Chucky series. It's kind of like he's not the doll, mind you. It's like before he became the doll, that sort of stuff. You know.
Uh-huh.
Boy, being a lot of horror slasher stuff. That's the thing I wish Hollywood would kind of look at him for. Anyway, so back to this. So, director, big fan of Psycho, as we all are. Problem, though, the reason he kind of never got to it in the first place was, he's always loved Psycho, but how the heck are you going to do a recreation of Psycho without the house or the motel set, A little tough to come by unless you have, like, unfettered access to Universal. So basically a buddy of his kind of suggested to him, hey, why don't you go with the mental hospital? Why don't you pick up where Psycho left off, where we know where Norman's going, and even if you want to look at the whole Psycho franchise, I remember I told you about that whole Psycho franchise at the time. I know you're aware of it because you cited it earlier, but there's a really great documentary that kind of takes you through all 4 Psycho movies. Because I remember out of the Psycho sequels, I love the 4th one. But that's the thing. There's a lot of.
And the thing about the Psycho series is, like, I'm very well aware of them. I should watch them one day. But like I said, Dragon, I feel like, none of the other sequels are in black and white, for one, right?
No, none of them are in black and white except for the first one. You're right.
So that's the thing. I mean, that right away, plus just the tone, the atmosphere, just the way that Norma Bates is portrayed, that narration at the end, it all fits so well into, like, this feels more like a direct spiritual successor to the first one than I believe any of the sequels probably feel like, having not seen the sequels.
And yet again, so brilliantly, what he did here is this is 10 years in between the 2 movies, where Psycho 2 takes place essentially 20 or 22 years after the original Psycho, because it takes place in like 80, I guess like 83 or something, which is basically from 61 to 83, so 22 years in real time to explain why Norman is so aged versus where he was in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he's finally getting out by the time of Psycho 2, and this is like kind of 10 years into the process of him like finally making headway within the within the therapy. So that's this plays perfectly it walks 2 realms in a perfect sense. It's its own thing, but also does fit into the grand continuity, which is something you can say about the best fan films. They just feel so good you can lump them in with the actual stuff, and you wouldn't lose a beat.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Okay, so with that in mind, like you already mentioned, Dragon, the short starts with Norman Bates already in the mental hospital. He's kind of trying to come to with his current reality, Dragon, but he's having a hard time of it. What's going on?
Okay, well, first off, I want to highlight this, and this is what Notarelli is doing really well here, is that he's capturing a lot of the Hitchcockian angles, and I love how it's like every shot has a purpose. I mean, again, I've told you about this. I forget if you've seen this documentary. It's on Hulu. It's 7852.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing. The People versus George Lucas guy, Alexandria Philippe, directed that. Excellent stuff. Anyway, that guy. It's always about breaking down every single like specific thing you could ever take away from the shower scene in Psycho and all the various ways you can read into it. And I feel like a little bit might have rubbed off in here with all the really intentional shots here, where one represent with all this in glorious black and white, as you said. And then we have a little bit of a visual recap. We kind of get a peek inside Norman's mind and what we're going to be kind of dealing with the whole video here of Norman coming to grips with the actions that we, the audience, saw in Psycho. Because we see the iconic shower moment. You see the shower going, we see the blood going down the drain. Then we see the clock.
Yeah. It's all. You're right. It all very much is a great kind of flash of like, okay, like this is what we're in for. Like this is very much kind of the iconic Psycho imagery that we know, kind of going literally down the drain into this, into the mind of Norman Bates, if you will. Symbolism.
Yeah. Yes, and speaking of symbolism, I love how the clock foreshadows the metronome later. That's one of my favorite little details, because we have this clock on the wall, and that's his mother, and of course, very, very synonymous there. Again, it's passage of time, and the metronome, which is basically going to be what kind of winds the clocks back for Norman in a sense. All right. So we have some focused and specific shots, like very Hitchcock, and we have the smoking, and of course then we reveal Norman again, kind of smoking, going around. It was one we're indicating the '60s. Well, I guess in this case more so the '70s, but doesn't matter. My point is, an older time, and Norman here he's awakening from the haze. That's kind of why I like with the smoke in the air during this. It's like he's awakening from the haze. As we meet Norman, who's played by Chris Bolstrom. They put like a wide cattle casting call out for this guy, because as you imagine, unless you're Freddie Highmore, it's going to be really hard to find a good Norman Bates.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
And not even that, because this is even harder, because you can't just, we have to go with like the older, like again, like, this is post-Psycho Norman Bates.
Yeah, post, so you can't just go like Anthony Perkins in his prime either.
And again, as we kind of stay at the start here, and also the director has seen the Bates Motel series. I don't think he's as glowing about season 5 as we are, because that one in which they adapt the movie. But it's not that it's he doesn't like the whole switcheroo with Mary and all that sort of stuff, and Bates Motel the way they went with it. But the point being,
I think the Marion stuff in season 5 isn't the best stuff in season 5. I think it all comes down to like how the finale was handled. Really, that's where the meat of the good season 5 stuff is.
Sure. I think everyone's entitled to their opinion. My point is, Bates Motel we're huge super fans of, and again, that's the fun thing looking at this, given how dialed in we are to Bates Motel versus like, okay, let's fit into the actual movie here and see.
Right.
See where we're going. So again, Chris Bolstrom here, he's an excellent, and we always say Freddie Highmore's doing Perkins better than Perkins. This guy, he's also kind of become Perkins. So rarely do you find another one who's doing Perkins better than Perkins in a sense. This guy's fantastic. All right, so again, it just matches wonderfully. So we have Dr. Raymond. Now, fun fact, continuity fact about this thing. This just shows you all the little spit and polish in the writing here. So Dr. Raymond, so in the original '60s, Psycho, at the end, the big expo dump, with the big psychiatrist that comes out there basically explaining multiple personalities to the audience and why dressed up like his mother. That was Dr. Richmond. Now, in the sequel, because they couldn't get the original actor, what they did is they had Dr. Raymond, who was who was Dr. Loggia. Who was Robert Loggia, the actor, from Big.
Yeah.
Robert Loggia played the doctor who got Norman out and basically abdicated for him, is like trying to help him reintegrate into society. So that doctor is the younger version of him here with this Dr. Raymond. So it connects directly into Psycho 2. Quite nice.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so he introduces himself to Norman. Presumably he's done this before and Norman has forgotten about this. Perhaps. I mean, I could be reading into that. So
no, that's exactly how I read into it, Dragon. The fact that like this is almost like maybe like a ritual of having to deal with Norman, like it's almost like the really dark version of 50 First Dates, if you will, you know what I mean? Like you have to go over it over and over, like, okay, Norman, you're in this facility. Yeah, I know it's intense. Just calm yourself. You need to get a level head. It's God, I could just see like years of this sort of repetition going down, Dragon.
Yeah. So, of course, he's heard about him for a long time, and this is all news to Norman. He reveals that Norman is in Pineview, which, again, big thing in Bates Motel, and, of course, we know why. Pineview, very important in the source. And
now, Pineview, was Bates Motel the only thing that brought up Pineview?
No, I'm pretty sure. I think there had to be at least one reference to Pineview. They mentioned he was going to a mental hospital. I think they name-dropped Pineview in there, so I'm pretty sure it's like there was a reference to Pineview, we made into a big thing in Bates Motel, and so we brought it back here. And maybe in the sequels of Psycho, like when he gets out in 2, they probably directly mention Pineview again, so that's probably where they built in Pineview for Bates Motel to pull from yet again, I guess. Anyway. So point being, he's in Pineview Mental Hospital. So again, as far as my headcanon goes, Pineview's the nice one, given everything we went through Bates Motel. All right, so Norman here's asking, like, well, why am I in a mental hospital? Why am I in an institution? I'm not crazy. And of course, I love the humble stammer and the boyish innocence. He's got that down packed, which you want with Perkins.
Oh yeah.
So he explains, his mother needs him, and his mother needs him. And he has to go care for his mother. Then Dr. Raymond's starting to drop these truth bombs on him. Here's the barrage of truth bombs that are going to shake his status quo and shake his world. Here, he drops all the information that we, the audience, know. That information roughly is what, Tiki?
Basically that his mother's been dead for about 22 years.
The mother's been dead for 22 years. He's been Pineview for like a decade, basically 9 years plus the trial, so 10 years old.
Yeah. So So yeah, Dragon, not a good way to wake up in the morning, just realizing that your whole reality is out of whack and what you think you've been living is all a lie.
Yep, and Norman is in denial. And this is what I love in the direction. Again, very Hitchcockian here. I love how as Norman's getting this bad news, the way we framed everything is the doctor is all nicey nice, and now the doctor begins to get a little flustered as the short goes on.
Mhm.
And you'll notice as things are going this way, like Norman, like all these horrible realizations kind of compiling upon each other. Like Norman then realizes he has handcuffs on. So I love that we turn like this friendly conversation into, okay, you're talking to an authority figure and you're handcuffed. Basically, the therapy room's turned to an interrogation room almost.
Yeah, I noticed that. That's a really cool, like, kind of subtle visual change up there. Just and that's one of the things I really respect about this short that honestly I feel like is a step above the original second. Not to say like, oh, this is better than Hitchcock, but I'm not saying that, but still it's a bit more conceptually interesting, the whole idea that the environment that Norman is in is constantly changing around him based on his state of mind.
Certainly, and of course he's telling him you killed two people. You killed Marion Crane and Milton Arbogast.
Mhm.
So Norman explains it was his mother, and it's impossible. Of course, the doctor responds to him with, "That's impossible because she's been buried for 22 years at Fairview Cemetery, and you were there. Not only were you there, you gave a nice eulogy."
I love that little detail. That's very Highmore-esque to
Yeah, that
think
people
about.
that people your neighbors said you gave a really nice eulogy. Okay, so let's see. So basically, so essentially what we do here so cleverly within all of this, by the way, this is my favorite thing conceptually about the whole fan film, is that basically we reworked the exposition at the end of Psycho into a conversation and a recap for Norman. So it hasn't.
Pretty much, yeah.
So we've kind of taken something a little tacked on for the audience, but we've directed it more into a more plot helpful aspect here. And it's more on a character level, I should say. I think we're relating it to Norman, which is what is a way you kind of make that exposition land a little bit more instead of just, oh man, we really needed it. We really needed it shelled out to us back in the '60s, didn't we?
Right,
We
exactly,
needed it
exactly.
spoon fed to us, didn't we? Personalities and everything. And then that guy, it's not so much that was exposition, so much it went on for so long. That's the thing.
Yeah. And then I think kind of, when Clue came out, do you think maybe that was a little bit of a poke at Psycho among other things
I mean, to be
with
fair, it's
really
Clue
the
though.
whole last act being like the whole last act is just Tim Curry running around like he did this and then he did this.
Okay, in all fairness, I think that's more of an Agatha Christie thing. She does that in all her books, which essentially is what they're
Fair
going
enough.
for. So, anyway, I hear you. I mean, I think it's like doing it in film probably in vogue because of Psycho, maybe. I don't know.
Uh,
All right.
mhm.
Okay, so let's see. So, the Doctor then again. So again, we're turning the exposition into something a little bit more character related here. We're saying, but you couldn't let it go. You dug her up. And again, this is like you're breaking Norman's world right now. This is, you just couldn't let her go. You dug her up and brought her home. And Norman's just horrified. Why are you saying these awful
That's
things?
disgusting.
Yes, that's disgusting. And again, that's a Norman Bates we all know and love, and just went gaga over in Bates Motel as well. Just the horrific, just kind of the dramatic implications. Oh man, I
Oh
love that.
yeah.
Anyway, okay, so you had to bring, and again, I love the phrasing. This, you had to bring her back to life, which in Resonance, of course, that's absolutely what he's doing. That's why he went the extra mile and did all kind of the famed creepy things with, that we know Psycho for. Again, he's bringing her to life any way that he could, which is again a desperate man's plea to revive his mother.
Hmm.
Which again, folks, doing this on Mother's Day, so keep the mother up there.
Yeah, this is a very, very appropriate Mother's Day special, Dragon, is it not?
Yeah. Nothing says I
I
love
mean,
you like nothing says I love you like exhuming a body. Am I right? Okay.
oh man.
All right. Let's see. So of course he's asking like, why are you saying this? I don't think you're a nice man. Sorry. Okay. I'm gonna try to ease up on
Oh,
Bates
oh
Motel.
boy. Yeah, I would say he's up on the Bates
Okay.
Motel,
Okay. Okay.
Dragon.
Holmes says, why are
Get
you
it
saying?
in there, buddy. Right it
To be fair, if
in.
there's any appropriate time to do a Bates Motel reference, okay. No, I hear you.
Well, no, I'm just saying this, like, specifically the reason I like this so much is because it's not Bates Motel. It very much
You're
is rooted in the original movie, so.
right. Of course. Okay. So this is what. Why are you saying this? because she's a figment of your imaginations. Or he's trying to give him the smell of coffee. You're like, okay, you gotta stop blaming things on your mother, otherwise I can't reintegrate you into society, even if it's gonna be like 10 years from
Mhm.
now. It's we're on a long road here. You're kind of stalling while we're trying to get gas.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's see. So he says, he was assigned to him after the trial, and again, they get the frustration. I've been assigned to you since your trial, and I've been trying to bring you back ever since, which gives you a sense of the whole rinse and repeat of it all. Again, the darker 51st dates of it all, as you said.
You know what I also kind of like about it is that it's kind of got a Michael Myers and Sam Loomis kind of quality to it.
Um, Sam Loomis.
Halloween.
Well, I know that, but Sam Loomis.
Oh, Sam. Doctor Loomis.
There
Doc
you go.
Loomis.
Okay.
There's another Loomis. Dragon. I'm sorry. That's dumb. Now we've got Bates Motel on the mind, right?
To be fair, Sam
Um.
Loomis is in the original, though, so you're not off.
No, but Dragon. No, there is a Doctor Loomis in Halloween, though.
No,
So
no,
I'm
I know.
sorry.
I forgot.
You
I
can
forgot what his first
understand
name
the
was.
confusion.
But fun fact,
You
though,
can understand the confusion,
I'm going to
Dragon.
save you here. I'm going to bring you back. I'm going to bring you back here. Okay. League 500 does have a Dr. Loomis Halloween short film.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
We brought it back, folks. That we did. Again, with the number. Again, I told you horror was kind of a specialty of his, and he's kind of covered the gambit there with a whole bunch of stuff. Even Scary Terry.
Oh God! Oh, he's done Scary Terry. Oh, I
Oh,
have
I
to
mean
check out
actual
Scary Terry.
Scary Terry. I mean, like there's Freddy
Oh
Krueger, there's Nightmare
man.
on Elm Street, and there's Scary Terry. A lot. Anyway. Okay. Let's get back on point. All right, so let's see. So he's been trying to bring it back ever since, and you've been here, and this is a great delivery. You've been here, but you haven't been here. And this
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
is an entrance for the ages, folks. Who? What do you mean? Who's been here?
What are you
And
going to do, Norman? Blame your mother again, like you always do?
now, what's so great here is, of course, Tiki and I were very attached to the Vera Farmiga interpretation of both Mother and Norma Bates. We were huge fans of
This is this is very, very far removed from Vera
it.
Farmiga,
Is.
Norma Bates. I love it,
And
honestly.
here's why, and this is what's great about this. So of course, before Vera Farmiga wonderfully entered and improved all of our lives, there was Olivia Hussey. Olivia Hussey, for the kids out there, she was from the Romeo and Juliet movie they did, but Olivia Hussey, she also played Norma Bates in the reason is probably my favorite of all the sequels they did. She's in Psycho 4 when we flash back to Norman's show, the Bates Motel years of it all. And she
Oh,
played Norma Bates, and the idea she kind of played a little bit bipolar, where she could be really sweet one moment, but then like be really vicious personally another moment. And you get the sense of where Norman got so psychologically damaged and abused. And
yeah.
what's so great about that, though, is that in Psycho, the voice that we hear of Norma, of Mother, is again an approximation of all that psychological damage. Therefore, it becomes like as they call it when they're making Psycho, the old crone voice. And the old crone voice essentially has been given a body here. With this version of Mother, we've given personage to the old crone voice, the absolute horrific personification of Mother, wonderfully played by Deborah Lamb here. Deborah Lamb is fantastic, and basically
Oh
we've given
man, she is definitely. I think she definitely steals the whole sketch, Dragon.
like I love with all this we've revived the corpse, which is what Norman's done in his
Oh,
head. So it makes all the sense in the world that we've revived the corpse in Norman's head in such a horrific way because she's so off the money, she's so on the money, so off the film strip as it were. She's in the rocking chair, she's got the sweater, she's got all the trimmings. It's the skeleton given life, man. Like, and then she's like, "Go ahead, Norman, blame me again." It's what you do best anyway. Again, we're not doing adjustment. Deborah Lamb killed it with this,
No,
man.
I mean, she just gets so under your skin, you know. It's that's the that. I mean, with Vera Farmiga, I feel like it was more just almost kind of like a passive aggressively nice, you know. Like there were times when she could be so nice to, like it was more of a smothering type of thing. You know what I mean? But with Norma Bates, like traditionally, it very much is more just straight up verbal abuse, and this is playing into the verbal abuse quite well.
Yeah, because Bates Motel was the kind of devil on your shoulder take on Mother, where this
Right.
the kind of the classic take on Mother that we're doing here is it's a mother who is again like the nag. She's the mother who's nagging you and just guilt. She's the guilt trip mother. That's the more accurate thing. She's guilt tripping Norman, like all my sacrifices I brought you. It's a little bit of that, but also I mean, of course, you can understand they probably got this from Psycho in the first place. If you remember Red Dragon, where he had Francis Dollarhide's grandmother in his head, you heard the voice of his grandmother in his head, who was like always uh, always chastising him and basically gave him all
Yeah,
this like
yeah, yeah.
that again. The point is, it's all come from the same source, folks. It's really good stuff.
Hmm.
All right. Okay, so let's see. So go ahead. You're always blaming me. So and also here's the question I have to pose to you, Tiki. Do you think she's been in control since the end of Psycho, or I mean, the implication seems to be she's been in control ever since Psycho. But I think the question gets raised as we go deeper and deeper. Is like perhaps she's been in control because Norman just has no memory of things. Seemingly, I mean, it's quite. Sorry, I'm trailing off here because it's a question of like, did Norman lose control earlier in the movie and there was the visage like she pretended to be Norman, just he had no idea of it not just at the very end where she took over like we had at the end of Psycho.
Well, the way I read into it, Dragon, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because it's just kind of speculation here. But the way I read into it is that, like I said, it's kind of the 51st Dates thing where the mother personality is in charge, like maybe 90% of the time. But then whenever Norman Bates does come to, they have to do this kind of like almost ritual therapy session with him
Right.
to kind of purge mother out of him. Um, I don't know. That's the way that I read into it. It's like she's not in control all of the time, but she's in control like a large percentage of the
Sure.
time, enough so that she'll like just potentially overtake him for like maybe years. I don't know.
Sure. So okay, so we have a very vulnerable Norman, just looking at her and like saying she's here, but doctor,
Mhm.
I don't want her here. And then the doctor sees his opening here, like okay, catharsis time, buddy. Okay, you got to face her here. Says okay, just tell. Yeah, basically, once the doctor sees his opening, I want you to face your mother and basically talk to her here. So it's like tell him why, how you want to
Oh
abandon your
God.
sick old. Again, this is where the guilt comes in the guilt trip.
Oh.
Abandon your sick old mother to go off gallivanting with a trollop dumb enough to pay you a passing glance.
That's great. That's
It's
great.
really just solid. It's
Oh God.
excellent. It feels very appropriate to that voice you heard way back
Just
when.
digs into the nice girl of it all.
The nice girl, but also, so again, now we have basically now we have this really interesting therapy session between the two personalities, as the doctor's encouraging the two personalities to hear each other out, trying to work through their work through their grief here. So so here's the thing. So Norman says recently we had an argument,
Mhm.
and Doctor, I don't think it's fair the way she treats how she treats me the way she does. And then she got mad and she told me you should act like if you want to act like a man, you need to solve your problems like a man. Handle your problems like a man. The next thing I knew I was here. So that whole next thing I knew I was here is what's giving me the questions here of handling your
Right.
problems. Was
Right.
that like
Right.
since Marion in the first place? Like was it like potentially since Marion that she's been in control? But again, the whole 90% thing, it's hard to tell. So
Yeah.
okay, okay. So then Dr.
Because
Raymond.
I'm just saying, if this was like the first time that they got any sign of Norman Bates since Psycho, I mean, that would be, I feel like, more of a revelation, right?
Yeah,
So, I don't know. That's just my logic.
sure. Okay, so Dr. Raymond, he tries the old metronome experiment here. He's basically telling Norman to focus on the metronome, which basically gives him an outlet to kind of
You've
try.
got to focus.
He's got to focus. Yes, yes, yeah.
That's a
Okay,
deep pull.
deep pool, but it's on Disney Plus now, so the kids could find out. Watch Agent Carter season 1, kids. You'll know what we're talking about. Anyway, so
Focus.
right, okay, so Dr. Faustus aside here, we're trying to basically Norman's trying to fill the blanks here. That's essentially what the doctor's aiming at. Trying to fill the blanks via the metronome, and of course, metronome kind of symbolic of a passage of time, a binary back and forth, as the metronome typically is. Norman recalls the So it seems like Norman recalls the Sam Loomis confrontation because basically he was getting into an argument with a man. He could be talking
Yeah,
about Arbogast,
yeah.
but I'm pretty sure it's Sam Loomis. Cause I'm just, again trying to measure things up here because I think that's at the very least that's when the last blackout was. If again because Tiki and I like a whole blackout counter thread all of Bates Motel whenever Norman blacked out, all the
Oh,
degrees
it's
of blackout.
extensive. It's
It's
extensive.
extensive. Basically, we're like 4 tiers of blackout. Doesn't like the last level of blackout is like when he actually turns into Mother. That's the whole difference there. Anyway, the point being, there are tiers of blackouts. I guess the way I take it is that it sounds like Norman hasn't really been around since that Sam Loomis confrontation. As the confrontation with Sam Loomis, then he blacks out, and then he's like potentially either waking up here or again like the 51st dates of all, and he comes back, and then it's going back and forth ever since. Like that's the last since the ending of Psycho. It was Mother the whole time, ever since that confrontation. That's anyway. Okay. So basically, his mother was yelling at him about the mess he made, and that it's all his fault, and it was your fault. And again, I love how the editing here was cutting back and forth toward like this mystery corner of the small room, which I love. Here's this: "It was your fault. It's always your fault. Stop it, Mother." Now he starts to fight back a little bit here. "You don't know what you're saying. You want me to handle," and this is where he's really making some excellent points here. Right? "You want me to handle my problems like a man, but how can I when you're always nagging me like this?" So,
Goddamn good point. That's kind of like the ultimate parable of Norma Bates right there.
yeah, now she's like just like nagging. Then she goes on the guilt trip here.
Oh God.
"It was
How dare you?
me who brought you into this world." And again, very ironic given how he's literally giving her life, bringing her into the world and everything.
Exactly right. It's all very juicy.
"Me who fed you, who clothed you, gave everything I had to give, and this is how you treat me." So Dr. Raymond tells him to confront his mother with the truth, essentially, which leads to. Um, again, I love this. This is a great turn here, and this is the great. This thing we always loved in Bates Motel, and I bring it for a strategic reason here. Is that in Bates Motel they did so well was something that we didn't really get in the original movies, or well, maybe in the latter parts of the franchises, but not of the franchise, but not as well, was we played a lot with kind of the psychological aspect of switching between Norman and Norma. It's Norman and Mother, and
Mm.
just and basically all like the fun things where if Norman had something on his mind, or like an idea, someone was having a conversation with Norman, like an idea would pop into his head. Mother sometimes, as a reflex, would pop up, now being armed with information that Norman was also armed with. Again, kind of feeding the delusion. So that's the kind of stuff I loved that we got to, especially in like seasons 4 and 5 that we do here as well, which is just really great. Clever psychological, kind of conversational, tricks. Here,
Sure.
so let's see. So, Doctor. Okay, so anyway, she's saying something on your mind, boy. Saying, "Hey, talk to her." And so now she's all of a sudden ready for a conversation because again, armed with the same information. "Something on your mind, boy." Again, performance is perfect. Perfect projection stuff here. Is perfectly projected. um, okay, let's see. So, Mother, I'm not happy with you. So I'm not happy with you, and I raised you. I'm not happy with you either. I raised nothing more than a spoiled, spineless, sniveling, ungrateful little this and that, just like chewing on that.
Little bastard.
Yeah, is normally sticking up for himself.
Dragon also, don't forget, I love how she's just like, I love how at the start of that, she's just like, don't you think I know that, Norman?
And again, playing with the fact she's a projection. That's the stuff I'm talking about right there. Just like she. Don't you think I already know that?
Right.
Oh boy. All right, and again, like I think it's also great. Like again, she's just railing into him with all of it, not giving him. It's not an inch of a conversation. It's all projecting all the years of abuse, psychological abuse she doled out.
Absolutely, yeah,
Like
yeah.
all, it's nothing but strings of insults from her too. So he's Norman's starting to stick up for himself. Like, shut up! I hate you. You're the worst mother I could have ever asked for. How dare
That's
you?
never. How dare you? Now that's something we would never hear Highmore say, even in the darkest of times, Dragon.
Oh no, we wouldn't. let's see. So Norman is, like I said, basically Norman here. He's aiming for some catharsis here to move on from the damaged relationship. That's kind of what's happening right now. He's in the midst of kind of seeking the catharsis, and says, "I did everything." Oh, sorry, no, he's. To be fair, they are the same person. I want to get it right. Okay, so he said, "I did everything for you, and you treated me like a slave." And you're jealous and petty and cruel, and you killed those people, Mother, and made me clean up after
Oh,
you. You're a monster, and I wish you would just die. And again, those are mighty fighting words,
oh boy.
given the whole construction of the delusion here. Like, I wish you would die, where he has the power to actually kill her here.
Sure, sure.
So then the staging. Oh my goodness, we got to talk about the blocking here, Tiki. How great is the
Yeah,
blocking?
that's what I'm talking about, man. Just the way that this room can just kind of like change into an entirely different setting just because of the way it's lit and the way that it's and the way that Norman's posed and everything like that. It's really good stuff on a sheer filmmaking level.
So it's so small the changes that we make, but it's such a big impact. Where staging is, so Mother gets up now from her rocking chair. She's been stationed there for the whole thing, which classically Mother sticks in the rocking chair. When she gets up, or if you remember, when Mother gets up, one form or another, aka Norman wearing the suit, Arbogast dies. When Mother gets up, something bad happens. Again, it's like the
Right.
abusive parent disciplining the child. So Mother gets up, and Norman, he's just sitting in the kind of the interrogation room, the therapy, kind of chair, just sitting, and he looks really small compared to her, and she's playing off of this, big words for such a small man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What will you do about it? So now it's just and what are you going to threaten me with? Crocodile tears? And she cuts really deep.
Dragon, I love how all the dialogue is so 1950s. That's what I really love about it.
Oh yeah, and she cuts really
Like
deep.
it's all very insulting and hurtful, but it's all terminology that you would hear out of the time period.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead. She got deep. What'd she say?
You're weak just like your father. Which is
Mm.
interesting, because if I remember, bear in mind, it's been ages since I've seen this movie. It was a really impactful scene. In The Fourth Psycho, they kind of referenced Norman's father once. And what they did is a really creepy scene, Tiki. We're at Norman's father's funeral. I want to say he was killed by killer bees.
Oh God, not the bees.
Yes, not the bees, not the bees. He was basically killed by killer bees, and they put like a cloth on his face for the closed casket. Again, it wasn't like they kept it open for a really creepy bit where his mother,
Uh-huh.
like, take him to a funeral. She tickled him so it would be disrespectful during the funeral, just to make, just so she could yell at him, which is just sadistic.
Oh God.
And like the cloth blew off the man's face, and everyone's horrified. Oh God, look
Oh,
at his. It was a whole. Anyway, the point being, like, he died of something that would
fucking
make that would
sting lips.
what
Bee sting lips.
probably. Anyway, so that's the fact. The fact that potentially in this whole continuity, probably he might have died of something like a weak death, so to speak. So maybe a little bit of that kind of added in there too. The man died of bee stings, which again, horrific enough for me, mind you. Again, I'm not casting any
Oh,
stones.
that's very horrific for me.
Yeah. Anyway, but I'm saying for like kind of the 50s or 60s man, if you will, killed by bee stings. Nah.
God. Anyways, all right.
Anyway, was killed by Koreans. You don't hear me. Anyway, so okay, let's see. So, okay, so let's say, "Go away, mother, leave me alone." And go ahead. Sorry, "Go away, mother, leave me alone." And then her response is, I'm going back home with or without you." And basically, he's knocked out of the chair. Like, I believe she throws him down. This is what's great. It's a little change, speaks volumes. When he is thrown down, the chair he was sitting in really disappears, and what's below him is like a rug,
Yeah.
indicating a hallway. As in, like, even though we can't afford to go to the Bates Motel or go to the Bates house, weren't you thinking we're in the Bates house all of a sudden with that little moment?
Oh yeah, 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 for sure. That's what I'm saying. It's just minor, subtle little touches here and there, just really go a long way.
And also, as they got into it, like the third Psycho, Anthony Perkins directed, and that one did have some really good directing in it. And they did stuff like that in there, where they
Mhm.
have like shifts between like him talking to his mother and like like really clever directorial moments. So again, maybe a little reference to that in part. I don't know. Could be reading into it. Anyway, so now we're getting to the big climax of it all, folks. Okay, so she, as
Ooh.
she's, won't I won't take lip from a thankless little boy like you, little little brat like you. So then she pulls a knife on Norman, of course, indicative
Mhm.
symbol of everything. Mother with the knife. The knife comes into play.
Like,
I could.
what's great about this knife thing?
What's great about it?
Um, I love it because it adds a suspense to the scene for me of like, oh my god, what's going to happen with the knife? You know, is he going to stab himself? Is he going to stab Mother? Is he going to maybe stab the
Yeah,
doctor? That was in my mind. But what I love about it is that you get so into it, right? But then logically, there's no way he
yeah,
actually has a knife. You
yeah.
know, it's so good conceptually in that on that level.
But then again,
Anyways,
we've seen some stuff, and again, they didn't go this route. Now they rightfully didn't. But I'm just saying, again, just to show you, you never know. It could took a pen in form of the knife, and probably could have potentially stabbed the doctor to death with the
oh
pen.
oh god, right,
What I'm
right.
saying, it could have. You never know. All right, so let's see. So anyway, so he's I could end your existence right now, boy, and you wouldn't be able to lift a finger. Now, here's my read on it, Tiki. I wonder if you got any of this. That there's also a psychological threat to this encounter. Whether she actually, like again, if she killed him within this, I think the ramification could have been she could have left him catatonic like the end of the Psycho. Or at the end of Psycho, essentially he's catatonic, just kind of sitting there with Mother's kind of like
Right.
in the driver's seat. And essentially, it's like I could end your existence without lifting a finger. The whole like I won't even kill this fly. That whole thing from the end. And Psycho was like he won't
Hmm.
be able to move a
Hmm.
finger if I'm in control here because I'll just play dumb until they let out. So let's see. So then we have the light. Oh god, the lighting's great through all this. I should have said that earlier, but especially here, like the lighting gets really piercing. We have the shadows and everything, and like again, black and white at its finest, folks. Works wonders on the lighting. So, um, subtle transition in the. Oh, this is where. I'm sorry. Beyond that, we have the subtle transitions. Like she throws him down after the knife, but that's when we get to the hallway transition. Anyway, go to your because she says, "Go to your room as I clean up your mess like I always do." Just telling the little boy to
Hmm.
go to it. Norman's not doing it. So Norman gets up, and we're beginning slowly but surely the Bernard Herrmann score, which is great. It's coming in. It's coming in. It says, "You can't tell me what to do anymore, Mother. I'm done." And now Mother starts to get afraid. Now Tiki, the staging of this. Now this is given. This is a really famous part of the second Psycho movie. The climax was staged identical to this, where Norman Bates is going after quote unquote mother, someone else's mother. I'll say that much.
Yeah.
Holding a knife on him, just like this. So this is like directly kind of homage to Psycho 2. Goes a lot less dark than what happens in Psycho 2, trust me, but it's really cool. So
Hmm.
excellent moment here. So she's like, give me the knife, boy. Give me the knife, mother. Like, mother, give me the knife, mother. So the knife, of course, being the symbol of Norman accepting the reality of his actions. If he has the knife, he's accepting the blame and the responsibility that, no, I did this. I used this knife to kill people. So if he takes, that's what he's trying to
Right.
do, right? He's trying to make peace with the reality. And of course, if he does that, mother dies off. At least we, the audience, think so. So the two struggle. They struggle and they wrestle over the knife, and the theme's starting to really drift in there before it reaches the crescendo. He takes it, and then oh boy, Norman stabs mother. Like bam, stabs
Yeah,
her.
not just once, Dragon, just over and over and over again.
I love what sets him off. I love the realization. Like, he just stabs her like in the shoulder, essentially, and she looks, and like it all goes silent. There's the silence there. We kind of mirror the shower scene
Oh,
with all this, like the way like the knife goes up, and then bam. So again, just like the kind of the big shower moment, the stabs there. I should have drowned you at birth. It's like, oh god,
oh God. Oh, that's such a. Oh, Jesus Christ.
again, that's what I'm She
Happy
says that.
Mother's Day, folks.
Yeah. Says your mother a bouquet of roses, not a knife in the chest.
God. All right.
Okay. So, anyways, this is I should have drowned you at birth, which is a great line that sets Norman off. So again, even the idea, that even in death, his mother, as far as he's concerned, wouldn't have any remorse at all for her, wouldn't have any remote remorse at all for her. And so Norm is then pushes her back into the rocking chair, which I thought was great. So even if she has no way of escaping, she's pushed into the rocking chair. So then we have the full Bernard Herrmann score coming into play. Just says, "Shut up, shut up, shut up," as he's stabbing her. Again, like the boy speaking out, taking out his abuser. And this is editing is masterful here. What we do, much as the editing in the shower scene is masterful here. Where the way we edit this is we each stab, it's roughly 8 stabs. He stabs her 8 times after the shoulder stabs, so 9 total, I guess. Stabs her all these times, and each stab is like one of her in the chair. And of course, we never show her like the bloody gore of it, because again, that's the Hitchcock way of doing it. We don't show the bloody gore, like stab, stab, stab. The most we get is that one shoulder stab. There's no blood. It's just stab, stab, stab. But it's we stab and then cut to the past victims as the stab was coming down, of to Marion Crane in the shower, back to the chair, to Arbogast, going down the stairs, and there's just basically symbolically to me, that's Norman connecting the dots, is like the memories coming to him with each stab. So this is Norman fully catching up with, again, taking the acceptance in his hands and going for it, man, and also killing his abuser. And also, I think the last big takeaway of it all is that as Mother dies, again, I love seeing Mother in the chair, the bug-eyed and dead.
Yeah.
He drops the knife, and again, she looks just like the skeleton brought to life. And I think, to me, I read into that moment as that's Norman making the final connection that he did, in fact, kill his mother in the first place, which is true. He poisoned his mother in the first place. So it's like he killed all 3 of these people, and he's got to accept it and move on.
And Dragon, were you with me that there was a little bit of suspense about whether or not he killed the doctor?
A little bit, yes, a little bit.
I mean, like I said, it's like logically he can't have a knife, but like you said, he could have a pen or something.
It could have been something, it could have been.
Yeah.
I was a little tense about it. I didn't know exactly how much the doctor was going to react to everything here. So again, the point being, we come out, the metronome stops, and I love that with the edit as well. Drops the knife, metronome stops, and the doctor's all smile and happiness here, saying, "Norman, you've taken your first steps to reclaiming your life."
Oh yeah.
Of course, we can't just have a happy-go-lucky chipper ending in a Psycho.
Oh God, I love this ending so much, Dragon. I love this ending so much.
So we have this optimistic chat going on in the background, but we're playing some, as we did the original Psycho, we're playing some voiceover.
This is exactly what I'm talking about how this channels the original Psycho so well.
And this is quite brilliant, and it does make all the sense in the world here, where so Mother is saying that she allowed this to happen so he could escape the institution. Because again, if you think about Psycho, as great as the ending is, and it still is great, and again, it leads to the same place here, is that she won't harm a fly, so eventually they'll let him go. But again, she can't just give him the silent treatment. She has to give him something, and this is how she gives him something, which is a brilliant part of her master plan. She stood in silence for 10 years to get to this point, though, just to sell it. That's what's creepy about it when you think about it. Okay, so it's oh God, I'm so tired of trying to reason with these stubborn men. The only thing that separates doctors from lunatics are white coats. Again, this is the great mad dialogue of Mother from the original, which is great. I'll play their little game for now. This is the almost like kill a fly sort of thing. I'll play their game for now, but. For the time being, they can't keep us locked down forever. Then we have the horizontal lines. The horizontal lines come in just like the ending of the Those little touches are so nice. We have the little horizontal lines kind of breaking up the action, getting us to the credits. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. All right. And that's it. So, final thoughts, Dragon. I'm honestly really excited to look into some of this guy's other work, because I feel like this, if this one is any indication, he really, really just has a knack for really delivering an accurate feel for what the subject matter is. I mean, I don't want to hold them all up to a gold standard that this one is, but, I'm sure a lot of them are on similar qualities. So, just with this, it's I'm so used to Bates Motel, right? I'm so in the Bates Motel headspace as a Psycho fan that it was so refreshing to me to go back to this one and be like, oh yeah, that's what was special about the original movie that Bates Motel doesn't capture. That real abuse, that verbal abuse and just humiliation. Like I said, Norma Bates in Bates Motel is more of kind of like the overly smothering mother who's kind of like the fun-loving devil on your shoulder. This mother is just entirely different, and it's haunting. And oh god, and it's a wonderfully ironic Mother's Day choice, Dragon. That's all I'll say.
That it is. That it is. So, of course, my final thoughts. Again, fan filmmaking of the highest order. Always, always great to see. A film that's so good, a fan film that's so good that it could be, just slipped into the main canon, if you will. I think it's the benchmark for like the best fan films. They're so good. I mean, it's not every fan film. Sometimes they want to go their own ways, and that's also perfectly valid. But I'm saying sometimes some of my favorite fan films are the ones that are so good they feel like they could just like it's like a deleted scene in the grand whole. It's
Sure, I mean, we recently talked about Kenobi as a good example of
yes,
that.
exactly. That's what I'm talking about. To me, some of the fan films of the highest order. And again, I know Blink has done fan films of all sorts, and they've, my opinion, they've all been fantastic. And this is yet another entry, but entry near and dear to our hearts, given our love of Psycho and also kind of the spin-offs of Psycho, which again, this also fits so sweetly into that niche too. Of like, yeah, we're accepting that there is like a dot 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 at the end of Psycho. We never needed it, but we did get it, and it's kind of fun to kind of set this in kind of a fun gray area, a little black and white within the gray area. We're not too far there, but we're not too far in the original. We're kind of in our own special little space. It's a sweet spot in the Psycho franchise here, and again, it's also before like the convolution of things with the way the franchise went on. That's also really great here. It's before the convolution, but answers some hanging chads from the end of Psycho. Like, what's next for Norman? Like, how does Norman get better? How the heck does he get out of that asylum? Like we all hope he does. It's all the lingering questions you have. Just if you only watch the first Psycho, I wonder what happens to Norman Bates after the movie. Well, this is a fine answer to that. It's excellent. He did the impossible. I think really did the impossible. He kind of gave us like a very solid answer. What happens to Norman Bates after Psycho? And it's fantastic. It's good stuff. Quality stuff. Excellent way to celebrate Mother's Day in well, ironic way.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to check out some of Blinky 500's other content. He seems like a really, really ambitious fan filmmaker. I can't wait to dive into more of his work. Link to the video is in the description if you want to watch it. Although I can't imagine you listen to this whole thing without having watched the fan film first, but I digress. Anyways, folks, have a happy Mother's Day. Give your mother a phone call, tell her you love her, all that good stuff, and stay safe. Have a good night, everyone.
Give her a hug, not a knife.
I should have drowned you at birth.